piece of cake, right?
Friday, 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 ladies and gentlemen. I know Friday, of course, means the beginning of the weekend for many of you. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you are heading back to work, like I know so many of you do on the weekend, I hope that goes as good as it can for you. I've just been kind of sitting around brainstorming the last few days, playing a lot of Monster Hunter World with a couple of my buddies now, and also thinking a lot about Anthem. Just thinking a lot about the things that I guess I want to see Anthem do, sort of building a personal wish list in my head of like, here's the things we don't know Anthem's doing, but I hope Anthem's doing. I won't be upset if it's not doing them, but I think it would be cool to see the game take that step in that direction, not just for Anthem itself as a game, but for that sort of shared world genre that seems to be becoming more and more popular every year. I think whether you like it or not, the shared world genre, whether it's a shooter or RPG, whether it's Monster Hunter or Destiny, is here to stay. The idea of taking a traditional genre experience like a first-person shooter, a third-person shooter, an action RPG, and throwing it into a shared world, a persistent shared world that continues to grow and expand, is something that a lot of people like. It's also something that makes a decent amount of money for publishers, so I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. So I like to think a lot more about how I'd like to see that genre grow and improve, and I've really been inspired quite a bit as I've returned to Monster Hunter over the past few weeks, because there are so many things that Monster Hunter does, not just because it's like an RPG, but because it's just a great piece of game design that I would love to see a lot of these shared world shooters start to focus on. It's really the biggest problem I have with all of these shooters is that they're still so caught up in being shooters. That's like the primary focus of their core gameplay loop is to shoot stuff in the head. And I don't want any of that to go away. I like shooting stuff in the head. I like when enemies have crit spots. I like when enemies are allowed to take away certain player abilities to make the fights more challenging. But everything seems to revolve around what happens once you're in a place where you can start to pull the trigger, and not enough happens before and after that. That's what I love so much about Monster Hunter World, is it's a game where the fight can essentially be won or lost before you even leave Astera. And it comes down to crafting, the very intelligent and well-honed implementation of Monster Hunter World's crafting system that allows the player to prepare buffs, poisons, debuffs, a number of things that are going to give them an advantage, an edge, or at least allow them to spec their specific playstyle a little bit more finely before they head out into combat, before they even begin to engage, before they even begin to track the monster they're about to fight. If I'm running the Lance, for example, I need to be focusing on my stamina regeneration and all in all just my stamina pool. I want a big, fat, juicy stamina pool. So I'm going in there with cooked meat, I'm bringing rations, or I'm getting some energy drinks in there. I'm getting some of those juicy neon yellow Red Bulls, and I'm just chugging them down, getting that stamina bar maxed out so I can just tank like an absolute boss with the Lance. And before that even happens, maybe I want to go to the chef and I want to have a meal that, boosts my damage, boosts my attack power. Maybe I want to focus on defense because I'm really going to focus on tanking here. This is a tough monster. I'm going to try and aggro and let my friends do the DPS, right? There's just so many choices the player gets to make, and that creates an extra loop around the combat loop. So you can spend time out in the open world just collecting materials and knowing that they're going to tie back into your next combat encounter. That's something that I think a lot of these shared world shooters struggle with, is they have a lot of these systems, or maybe they have some of these systems, and they don't really know how to bring it all together without it all feeling like it all just points in the same direction. I mean, I loved Destiny, old Destiny. I'm talking like year 1, year 2, going out, farming crafting components, even back in OG Destiny when you had farm crafting components just to level up your weapons. It was fun, but only for a while, because you realized very quickly that that was a very linear sort of crafting and progression system. I'm just doing this so I can power up this weapon. These crafting components don't have any other greater value beyond that. Had we had a crafting system where we could go out and get buffs for our guardians or debuffs for the monsters we're going to fight, that could really expand that experience. And I think in general, the sort of bullet sponginess of many of the enemies, specifically in Destiny 1, would have been a lot more enjoyable to deal with if we could layer on those buffs and debuffs. It's a really great system, and very rarely do I just point at another game and say, I think that'll work in like every other game ever. And I'm not saying that you could just transplant what Monster Hunter does into shooters, but what I am saying is that I think Monster Hunter has some great design around its crafting systems and around the systems that happen out of combat that these shooters could take inspiration from. Because I do start to feel, especially having played shooters for such a large portion of my life so heavily, that they're kind of stuck in this rut of like, how do we do more interesting progression? And it always comes back to just focusing on the weapons and the gear. You know, there's little done outside of that, which is why I think I've fallen so hard for Monster Hunter, you know, since it launched and now since I've dove back into it, because that prep is just an enjoyable part of the loop, you know, just kind of hanging out in the workshop, getting your stuff together, really having to think, especially as you get towards the high rank and the more endgame content, about what you're going to bring with you, and letting that really influence the outcome of the fight. Being able to fail a combat encounter because you didn't pack right. You know, you didn't pack the right lunch. You should have brought a PB&J. You brought spaghetti and meatballs. Turns out this monster, he likes to eat spaghetti and meatballs. You made a bad decision, you know? It's a nice extra layer. Now, when it comes to Anthem, which is kind of what I want to tie this into, I'm really curious to see where they're going to go with crafting. We honestly have nothing at all on crafting. But we do have this one little piece of information in which the EA Play demo shows the team jumping into Scars and Villainy, and if we look off to the right side of the screen, it shows what appears to be 3 potential buff slots. So what could potentially go in those slots? Is it just XP boosts? I feel like an XP boost wouldn't have such a substantial and dominant position on a piece of UI. So what if the crafting systems we keep hearing about in this game are somewhat like we get in Monster Hunter, where players can craft buffs that will allow them to have, you know, certain damage, health, defense increasing capabilities out on the battlefield? What would you guys think of that? Is that something you'd like to see in Anthem? I know that I would personally enjoy that, especially if monster fights are a more integral part of the experience, specifically these strongholds. They're supposed to be really challenging, right? So it doesn't just have to be about the monster fight. It could be about the stronghold as a whole, and being able to go in there and have a buff to, I don't know, deal with acid. You know, we know that the Swarm Tyrant and the Swarm itself is known for its acid. And we see that acid actually get on the Colossus at one point and start to sort of damage it with a little bit of a dot or damage over time effect. So imagine being able to eventually, after fighting the Swarm Tyrant so many times, be able to craft a certain buff that prevents you from taking damage from that specific type of damage. This is, again, something that Monster Hunter does with its gear sets and its different mechanics. This is something that would add a nice layer that is indirectly affecting combat, and that the player, you know, it's almost like an extra layer of reward. You're not just going to fight that monster to get a new weapon. You're doing it to get a buff to make fighting that monster the next time a little bit more easy, or a little bit less unwielding. Let me know what you guys think. This is very much just me kind of free-form in today's discussion, just something I've been thinking about, and I really like to hear your perspective on it. You know, it doesn't just have to be about Anthem, but how do you feel about a lot of these shooters in general, and what do you think about that influence from games like Monster Hunter? You know, how important is crafting? How important is it for you, for these shooters, to start looking at systems outside of just shooting stuff in the face to expand the gameplay experience and to make it more deep? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Once again, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you in the next one.
You have been brought here for a purpose, the most important task of your lives.